what was to me, and I think everyone would agree, the biggest news to come out of this morning was a paragraph, or I should say a set of paragraphs in the 10Q filing that read, on July 17th, 2023, federal law enforcement agents. Now, when you see those words together, never a good news. That whenever you're federal law enforcement agents called us up to just say, you know what, we're big fans of the bloodline. That's not happening. So federal law enforcement agents executed a search warrant and served a federal grand jury subpoena on Mr. McMahon. No charges have been brought in these investigations. The company has received voluntary and compulsory legal demands for documents, including from federal law enforcement and regulatory agencies concerning the investigation and related subject matters. Now, in an email that was sent out to people in the company, and CNBC also had this statement, probably others too, Vince McMahon stated in 2022, WWE formed a special committee to review allegations of misconduct against me. That review was concluded in November of 2022 following an extensive investigation. Throughout this experience, I have always denied any intentional wrongdoing and continue to do so. I'm confident that the government's investigation will be resolved without any findings of wrongdoing. I'm focused on completing the recovery process from my recent spinal surgery and on closing our transaction with Endeavor, which will create one of the preeminent global sports and entertainment brands, with WWE adding the following comment: we believe this is a continuation of the investigation that commenced last summer. WWE has cooperated throughout and fully understands and respects the government's need for a complete process. And added to that was Nick Khan confirming the recent spinal surgery that Vince McMahon underwent, and he is on a medical leave of absence from the company. So a lot to digest there, but certainly that to me was by leaps and bounds, the biggest takeaway from this morning's news, the fact that there is in fact a grand jury investigation into Vince McMahon and what that materializes into or does not. But the fact that that exists and there was a subpoena involved, it certainly adds to the severity involved in this. And the fact that the Vince McMahon controversy is not in the past tense.
No, it still seems it's very much in play, and one has to wonder if it'll have any effect on his ability to contribute creatively to the show. Do you think it'll have any effect on this deal that is already in place with Endeavor?
I don't think it's going to have any impact on the merger completing. It sounds like they have run into no regulatory pushback. It seems like they noted the fact that some of these can be very messy and complicated, and this is the opposite. This one is going like it looks like it's just going to pass with flying colors. There doesn't appear to be anything holding up this merger from being rubber stamped at the end of all the requisite procedures to go through. In terms of Vince McMahon and the day-to-day, it's interesting the fact that, this surgery kind of eliminates that question from having to be asked because he is on medical leave now. And for the timeline of this, the subpoena was issued on July 17th, and it was just days later he had this spinal surgery. Now, I imagine the surgery had been planned for a while. I don't think you're just all of a sudden deciding to have spinal surgery. But regardless, that takes him away from his day-to-day duties, and it makes you wonder, like, what he is doing in this point. Like, it's largely rehabilitating what sounds like extensive surgery that he had on his back. But there will come a time that you would think that he is going to be recovered. And then what becomes of that? Does he just slide back into the role he's been assuming now that we are led to believe is largely coordinating the completion of this merger? We know that he is, overseeing certain degrees of creative and chiming in. He has been at some shows, but not all. And what his role is going to be long-term as well. But the fact is, this is very significant, and how far this goes with a grand jury investigation, how long they've been working on this, what they have found. And you go back to those emails that had to be disclosed to the SEC last Christmas when Vince McMahon was trying to get back into the company, and the board of directors initially stating they unanimously felt it would be the wrong choice to bring Vince McMahon back. And the fact that there is stuff that is not publicly known. I mean, there's a lot here, and this should not come as some left field surprise either. The fact that something like this was kind of going on behind the scenes when it seemed as though the board members, at least around Christmas time, knew of the potential of more coming out and how damaging Vince McMahon returning to his executive chairman post could threaten the company, even though that really did not materialize. He ended up being the significant factor in this merger with Endeavor, and Ari Emanuel vouching for him.
Hmm.
So we will continue to monitor this. Again, me and Brandon Thurston went over this quite extensively on the show earlier this afternoon that you can catch on the Post Wrestling and WrestleNomics feeds.